Hey everyone. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more exciting content. Imagine a cocky Navy admiral walking up to a quiet female soldier in dress whites, smirking as he points at her chest and says, "Sweetheart, who did you borrow that uniform from?" In less than 5 seconds, this woman drops one sentence that makes a 4-star admiral snap to attention, turn white and salute so fast his cover almost flies off. You will not believe who she really is. Immediately after the story ends. If you love your mom and dad, if you believe real Americans still earn respect the hard way, hit that subscribe button right now, ring the bell, and drop a like for this incredible woman who shut down an admiral with nothing but the truth. The desert sun beat down on forward operating base Thunder in southern Afghanistan like God himself had turned up the furnace. Dust devils danced across the flight line while CH-53s thundered overhead, kicking up clouds of talcum-fine sand that got into everything: boots, rifles, teeth. It was July 2011, and every sailor, marine, and soldier stationed there knew one thing for certain: when Admiral James R. Harrington came to visit, you squared away your uniform, polished your boots, and prayed he didn't notice you. Admiral Harrington was a legend in the worst way. A surface warfare officer who had commanded carrier strike groups in 2 wars, he carried 4 stars on his collar and an ego the size of an aircraft carrier. He loved surprise visits. He loved finding tiny uniform discrepancies. Most of all, he loved reminding everyone, especially women, that the Navy was still his ocean, and he decided who belonged on it. That afternoon, his C-2 Greyhound had just taxied to a stop. The rear ramp dropped, and out stepped the Admiral in crisp summer whites, gold exploding across his shoulders, his cover tilted just enough to scream authority. A nervous captain and 2 very unhappy-looking commanders trailed behind him like ducklings. Cameras from the base public affairs office followed at a respectful distance. This visit was going to be on the evening news back home. As the Admiral strode across the tarmac, his eyes scanned left and right for anything to criticize. That's when he saw her. She stood alone near a line of Humvees, hands clasped behind her back, staring at the horizon as if the mountains owed her money. She wore army summer dress whites so crisp they could have cut glass. The jacket was tailored perfectly, the skirt ended exactly at the knee, and on her sleeves sat 4 silver stars that caught the sun like diamonds. A simple silver nameplate read, "Wilson." Most people would have noticed the stars first. Admiral Harrington noticed something else. She was young. Too young, he thought, for 4 stars. Couldn't be more than 35. And pretty in that clean, no makeup way that made rear admirals write poetry and then immediately regret it. Her dark hair was twisted into a perfect bun beneath her garrison cap. Something about her posture, absolutely still, absolutely perfect, rubbed him the wrong way. He changed course and marched straight toward her. The cameras hurried to keep up. The Admiral stopped 2 feet in front of her, planted his feet, and gave her the slow up and down look he usually reserved for midshipmen who forgot to shave. A smirk crawled across his face. "Lieutenant," he began, voice dripping with sarcasm, "who exactly did you borrow that uniform from? Because those stars look a little heavy on those shoulders." The captain behind him winced. One of the commanders actually took a step back. The public affairs petty officer zoomed in, sensing viral video gold. The woman didn't flinch. She turned her head slowly, locked ice blue eyes on the Admiral, and let 5 full seconds of silence do its work. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, calm, and carried the unmistakable accent of West Texas ranch country. "Admiral Harrington," she said, "I earned these stars the same place you earned yours. Only I started a little earlier." The Admiral blinked. He opened his mouth to fire back the punchline he'd used 100 times on lieutenants playing dress-up, "Cute, sweetheart, but Halloween was last week." Only the punchline died in his throat. Because she reached into her pocket, pulled out a small leather wallet, and flipped it open. Inside was a gold badge and a credential that made the captain behind the Admiral gasp out loud. Central Intelligence Agency. Special Activities Division. Paramilitary Operations Officer. Rank equivalent, 4-star General Officer, honorary, direct commission. But that wasn't the part that made the Admiral's blood freeze. Underneath the CIA seal was a second line in bold capitals, current designation, Commander, Joint Special Operations Command, Special Access Program, Phantom Fury. The Admiral had heard whispers of Phantom Fury. Every flag officer had. It was the unit that didn't officially exist. The one that reported directly to the Secretary of Defense and, when needed, straight to the President. The one that had pulled off operations so black that Congress didn't even get read in. And this woman, this quiet woman in dress whites, was its commander. Her name wasn't just Wilson. Her full name was General Abigail Wilson, call sign Reaper Actual. She had been running covert task forces in Afghanistan since she was 26. She had more confirmed kills than most Marine sniper platoons. She had been wounded 6 times, twice declared dead on the battlefield, and once personally carried a wounded SEAL operator 12 miles to an extraction point while under fire from 3 directions. And right now, she was staring at a Navy 4-star who had just called her sweetheart. Admiral Harrington's face went through every shade of red known to man before settling on paper white. His hand twitched toward his cover, then snapped up in the sharpest salute of his 38-year career. "Ma'am," he barked, voice cracking like a midshipman on his first day at Annapolis. "General Wilson, ma'am. My apologies, I did not recognize." "At ease, Admiral," she said softly. "I'm traveling incognito today. No need for the theatrics." But the damage was done. The cameras had caught everything. The petty officer's hands were shaking so badly the footage wobbled. Somewhere in the background, a Marine gunnery sergeant whispered, "Holy shit, that's her. That's actually her." General Wilson closed the credential wallet and slipped it back into her pocket. "You were saying something about my uniform, James?" she asked, using his first name with the casual confidence of someone who had briefed presidents while he was still worried about fitting into his dress whites. The Admiral swallowed so hard his Adam's apple looked like it was trying to escape. "No, ma'am. Your uniform is, impeccable." She gave him the smallest smile, the kind a lion gives a mouse right before dinner. "Good to hear. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a flight to catch. We're inserting a team into the Korengal tonight, and I'd like to say goodbye to my boys personally." She started to walk past him. Then, almost as an afterthought, she paused. "Oh, and Admiral. Next time you feel like questioning a woman's rank, maybe check the threat board first. You'll sleep better." She continued toward a waiting Black Hawk that had no markings except a tiny American flag stenciled beneath the pilot's window. The crew chief snapped to attention so hard his helmet rattled. As she climbed aboard, every Marine and soldier within 50 yards stopped what they were doing and saluted, not because they were ordered to, but because you salute legends when they walk by. Admiral Harrington stood rooted to the spot, hands still frozen in salute long after the helicopter lifted off in a storm of dust and disappeared over the mountains. The captain finally found his voice. "Sir, was that really?" "Yes," the Admiral whispered. "That was the Reaper." That night, the video exploded across every military forum, every veteran Facebook group, every base exchange TV screen from Camp Lejeune to Yokosuka. Someone added dramatic music and slow-motion replays. Someone else overlaid the text, "When you mess with the wrong general." Within 48 hours, it had 20 million views. But that was only the public version. The real story, the one that never made the video, was far darker, far more incredible, and began 10 years earlier in a dusty Texas town no one has ever heard of. Abigail Wilson grew up on a failing cattle ranch outside San Angelo, the only child of a widowed Green Beret who came home from Vietnam missing half his left leg and all of his faith in the government. He taught her 3 things: how to shoot, how to track, and how to never trust anyone wearing a suit in Washington. At 17, she could put 5 rounds through the same hole at 300 yards with a bolt-action rifle older than she was. At 18, She turned down full-ride scholarships to every Ivy League school to enlist in the Army as an 18X, Special Forces candidate. The recruiters laughed until she outshot, outran, and outrucked every male in the pipeline. She made it through selection. Then language school. Then the Q course. By 22, she was the first woman ever assigned to a Special Forces A-team, operating deep in the mountains of Afghanistan under a program so secret that even most generals thought it was a myth. That's when the agency came calling. They needed someone who could pass for Afghan, speak fluent Pashto and Dari, and had already proven she could operate alone for months behind enemy lines. They offered her a direct commission, a new identity, and a one-way ticket to the darkest corners of the war. She said yes. Over the next 8 years, Abigail Wilson became a ghost. She ran networks of informants inside the Taliban. She led raids that captured or killed 3 of the top 10 names on the high-value target list. She was shot, stabbed, blown up, and left for dead so many times that the agency finally gave her the honorary 4-star rank just so hospitals would stop asking questions when she showed up covered in blood demanding they save her operators first. But the one mission that broke her, the one that almost made her walk away forever, happened 6 months before she met Admiral Harrington. Her team had been tracking a Taliban commander named Muhammad al-Zahir, the man responsible for the IED that killed her father's old Vietnam buddy years after the war. They found him in a compound near the Pakistani border. Intel said 20 fighters, light weapons. Intel was wrong. It was a trap. 50 fighters, heavy machine guns, RPGs, and a Pakistani ISI colonel who wanted American scalps. The Exfil bird took an RPG on approach and crashed 3 miles away. Comms went down. Half her team was dead or dying within the first 10 minutes. Abigail made the call no commander ever wants to make. She ordered the survivors to scatter and try to make the border alone while she stayed behind to hold the courtyard. For 4 hours, one woman with a scarred M4 and 6 magazines held off 50 men. When the rescue force finally arrived, Marines from the 26th MU who had ignored orders to stand down, they found her sitting on a pile of brass, covered in blood that wasn't all hers, smoking a cigarette she had taken off a dead Taliban. 27 enemy Kia. 0 friendlies lost after she made her stand. The Marine colonel who found her tried to salute. She waved him off. "Save it, Jarhead," she rasped. "Just get my boys home." That was the night she earned the callsign Reaper. 6 months later, burned out, lungs damaged from the fire, soul heavier than the mountains she loved, she requested 1 month of leave, the first real leave in 8 years. She just wanted to go somewhere quiet, wear a uniform that didn't have blood on it, and remember what sunlight felt like without night vision goggles. That's why she was at FOB Thunder wearing dress whites with 4 stars she rarely acknowledged. She was on her way to Germany, then home to Texas, then maybe, just maybe, she would finally hang it all up. But Admiral James Harrington had to open his mouth. Now, because of one viral video, the entire world knew her face. The programs she ran were compromised. Assets in the field were being hunted. The agency was furious. The Secretary of Defense personally called her and begged her to come back for one last mission, the big one. The one that could end the war. She said no. Until they told her who the target was. Muhammad al-Zahir, the man who set the trap, was back. And this time, he had a nuclear device the size of a suitcase. So General Abigail, Reaper, Wilson cancelled her leave, put the dress whites back in the garment bag, and pulled on the same scarred plate carrier she wore the night she held the courtyard. She looked at herself in the cracked mirror of the ready room, touched the 4 stars sewn inside the collar where no one would ever see them, and whispered the words her father taught her the day he handed her his old CR-15. Some people wear the uniform. Others become it. Then she walked out to the waiting Black Hawk, climbed aboard, and disappeared once more into the night. Somewhere over the Hindu Kush, the pilot handed her a secure satellite phone. The voice on the other end belonged to the president himself. "General Wilson," he said, "the country owes you a debt we can never repay." She lit a cigarette, took a long drag, and watched the stars rush by beneath the rotors. "Mr. President," she replied, "just make sure my boys come home this time." The line went dead. The helicopter banked hard and flew into the darkness, carrying the deadliest woman in uniform toward a war that wasn't supposed to have heroes, only survivors. And somewhere far below, Admiral James Harrington sat in his stateroom aboard USS Abraham Lincoln, watching the viral video for the 100th time, hands still halfway to a salute he would never lower. Because some salutes aren't about rank. They're about respect. And some women don't just wear 4 stars. They earn every single one in blood, fire, and silence. The end. Now tell me in the comments, soldiers, veterans, patriots, from what part of this great country are you watching right now? Drop your state loud and proud. Let's show the world where America's heart beats strongest.